Alright, so Woodford Model 14 outdoor faucet. So these faucets just had a birthday. They turned 50 years old. And it's been an issue for a while here. And the problem is when you have something hooked up to the end of the hose that shuts the water off, like a sprayer, and you get the water on, you end up with water leaking here. Now this one's not as bad as the front. The front was actually just spraying out of this packing nut here. And what you typically can do is take this packing nut and you just give it a little bit of a turn, and that'll stop your leak. I know these have all been tightened down. I can't get them any tighter than what they are. So what we have to do is replace the packing that's in here, and then there's also a washer that turns this off, so it's like a frost-free, or what is it, freezeless, I think is what it says here. So we'll go through this whole process of taking this thing apart. Alright, so we do have a shut-off valve for that faucet, so that's good. We don't have to turn the water off for the entire house. The bad part is that's a, I think they call it a gate or stem valve. That's never been turned off since we've lived here, so I'm assuming it's going to require some force. I don't think we're going to get it by hand. So let's try to get that thing off. Yeah, okay, so I can't get that by hand. I'm gonna take slip joint pliers and try to turn that carefully. Oh yeah, it turned. Ooh, there it is, dripping water. So, I don't know, you probably can't see it from down there, but right where the stem comes out and the packing nut on this valve, it's leaking a little bit. Seems very, very crusty sounding. Probably a lot of mineral buildup just because it's on the hard water line. So we're just gonna keep cranking this shut so that we get it to stop dripping here and get this completely closed off. And then we may have to come back and tighten up the packing on this valve after we get our faucet in completely here. So didn't have to use too much force, but more than what I would do with my hand, so that's why I use this slip joint here. And you obviously don't want to twist that stem off if it's really stuck. Then you may need to use some heat or something to, yeah, some water stop to get it loose. Alright, so that's a better shot of it there. You can see there's a little tiny drip that formed, that came off of, like through that stem, and it's, you probably can't see it in my finger, it's pretty green, so there's a lot of mineral buildup, but we got it off, so now we can go to the next step of trying to get the faucet apart outside. Okay, so when I did the front faucet, I couldn't get the handle off. The screws actually was frozen the stem, so we'll see how this one goes here. I wouldn't be surprised, but the front one was leaking worse, so there was more like calcium buildup around the faucet or whatever. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Super easy. So you can pull your screw out for your handle here if you can get it. If you can't get it off, that's okay too. Chances are the handle probably won't come off. That's probably froze on. So then you're just gonna open up your valve like you would normally open it, and then we're going to tackle breaking loose this packing nut. Alright, so what I'm going to use for that is just going to be a crescent wrench here, or adjustable I guess would be the correct term. I'm just going to go counterclockwise here. Hopefully it doesn't go too hard. Alright, so that's pretty loose, that's not bad. And like I said, typically you don't have to replace it, but these faucets are old, and I know that these packing nuts have been adjusted a few times, so it's definitely not that. It needs a new washer assembly in there, and the new ones are much nicer setup. So we're just going to keep turning this until this is out completely. And then what you can do is just keep turning your faucet like you're turning it on carefully, because there is threads inside inside the wall, and you don't want to break that off in there, because then it just makes for a long day. There it is, I think. Yeah, you might have to work it back and forth just a little bit. I know the one in the front went pretty easy. This one's being a little bit more of a pain. And like I said, you don't want to twist it off inside the fixture. I'm just going to keep working that back and forth. Obviously, you don't want to break the handle off either, turning too hard. Oh, you know what? We might still have pressure on this line on this side, because I think we have a sprayer. So we're going to open that up and then try this again. Alright, so we got it open. Let's see if that made any difference. Oh, look at that. Oh, maybe not. Oh, it's still pretty tight. Fooled myself here. Boy, I really don't want to twist this off. Boy, that thing must be just all gunked up. Oh, I think that's it. There it is. We're getting it. Oh, the sign of progress. Okay, so it feels like we're out of those threads inside the fixture. Now you gotta work on getting this to pull out. Oh, our handle came off. Well, that's good. We can pull this off. Actually, this probably won't pull off either. Yeah. See, so the end of this spline here is all kind of dirty. So we're gonna reattach this handle with the screw, and we're gonna use that to gently pry this thing out. Boy, that is all gunked up. And this handle looks like it's aluminum. The new handles, I believe, are brass. So the screw here is brass. Most of the stuff on this fixture is brass. So I'm going to get the screw back in, and then we'll see if we can get this pulled out. Alright, so if your faucet's as old or close to being as old as this, it's going to require some effort to get out. This is what they used as a packing, and it's almost like it seems like a rope material that's soaked in some sort of, or maybe a wax material. I don't know, it looks like a fibrous waxy material that they use. And this one doesn't look dried out, but like I said, we get just a little bit of a leak there, and there's not much you can do with that. This, however, I got a feeling has nothing to do with the stem not coming out. It's on the inside there. So, and then behind this there's going to be a washer. But all I'm going to do here is, there it is, work it back and forth, and then pull it out carefully without hopefully wrecking anything. And there it is. That is the entire stem valve. Oops. Or stem, I should say. So we'll get this in the shop. This one is in much better shape than the other one. That's good. So this should be a quick, easy fix. We'll see. Okay, so like I said, it's a model 14, so this is the part number you're going to need. They show you a little the diagram, or the parts diagram here. The model 17 has the siphon valve built into it. I have two faucets like this in my garage that I added later. I'm assuming that these are 50 years old just because that's when our house was built. So I got two of these shipped to my house, well, free shipping from Amazon for 30 bucks, so 15 a piece. A new faucet assembly, that would be about 40 bucks. Really, there's nothing wrong with the actual faucet assembly. It's just the parts that wear out, which is this packing washer here, and then on the end there's a little tiny washer, which is this. That's from the old one. This is super hard plastic, and that's the washer I pulled out of the other faucet in the front. Like I said, that one was really leaking, And then I had some vinegar here left over from a lantern project. I just threw those in there. So really you could reuse that packing nut and washer it comes with. This was the screw I pulled out of the front, and this one took a little bit of effort. I used a lot of heat. So you could have that issue, like I said, if you can't get this screw off, take a propane torch, set it up in your vise after you pull your stem out, and just heat this up to no end, because you're not going to wreck anything. And then carefully run that screw, because it's brass, otherwise you'll twist it off in this stem. So if you heat it up, you'll get it off. And I had the same problem once I had the screw out. The faucet handle on the other one wouldn't come off. So I just heated it up again, and then on the opposite end I was pulling, and I just put it between the vise here, and I just kind of carefully tapped like this once I had it hot, and it, like I said, it popped right off. So heat is your friend if you got anything that's froze up like that from corrosion. So this is everything that comes inside that package for your Model 14 here. So you get a new handle, and I guess at some point they used plastic handles and they broke off. Obviously mine is an older unit and looks like it's an aluminum handle, so that's less likely to break. So you're paying for a new handle, which I'm not going to put this one on. I'll just keep this as a spare. And then they give you the new packing nut here, which is good because you could have, like I said, some corrosion and stuff in those threads, which you could get cleaned up with some vinegar, but they give it to you, so why not use it. They give you a new brass screw for the end of that stem. So this is going to be the screw for your handle. This is your new packing washer, so instead of that like fibrous waxy stuff, they give you a nice, looks like a neoprene rubber. So, and we could probably put just a little light coat of plumber's grease on that. This is that washer that goes with your washer, and this one's flat. I know the difference between the 14 and the 17 kit. The washer in the 17 kit is stepped, so that won't work with your 14. At least I don't think it will. So there is a difference between the kits. Otherwise, like the handle that comes with it, the packing washer, the washer on the end for the stem, that's all the same. Even the packing nut, all that stuff's the same, besides that one washer, and then you get the siphon valve parts as well. So let's get mine apart and get the new parts installed. Alright, so don't judge the mess. I got a lantern project that I've been working on. It was supposed to be something quick, but I ended up spending more time on it, and hopefully it turns out. I had a little problem with the paint last night. So anyway, we're going to take the screw back out of the handle here. We probably could just reuse the old screw, but since we got a new one, we're going to use it. We paid for it, so why not use it? We'll keep all the old parts. Why, I don't know. We'll probably never use them, but... And I have my doubts that this will last as long as the original here. I don't think we'll get 50 years worth of use. I guess we'll throw that in there and soak some vinegar. So that's that, I don't know if you can see that or not, that's that waxy type washer thing they use as a packing. Here's the washer, and like I said, this washer you probably could reuse. And on the opposite end here, that's where that washer is inside with the screw. We're going to just run that out. That one's pretty tight. I don't know, it's funny how two faucets can have different results here. The one last night that I did in the front of the house, this screw just backed itself right out. But I had more issues with like the end, the stem, and like I said, the handle. This one now seems like it doesn't want to come out. Yeah, it's definitely snug. I think what we're going to do is we'll stick this in the vise, and we'll make sure we got the exact correct screwdriver in there so we don't strip that screw. Alright, so I got this lightly clamped in the vise here. there it is. I don't think we twisted it off. All right, so it may just require a little moderate force, nothing too severe. Again, this is just a brass screw, so you don't want to get carried away with it. That screw's in pretty good shape. And then I'm just going to use a little pick to get in here to get this rubber washer out. So if you had problems with the faucet not turning off and it would just run, that would be this rubber washer in here, which that we never had a problem with. The faucet always turned off. If you got a problem with it leaking out of that stem, it's going to be that outer one. Ooh, man, this rubber is definitely hard. It does not want to flex at all. Coming out of here, I'm gonna have to get a needle nose in there and see if we can pull it, or at least get a piece of it. Yep. That's what you get when plastic dries out. All right, so there it is. That's the old one there. And here's what the new one looks like. So and this one is much more flexible. Well, somewhat more flexible than this one here. Is pretty dried out, and you can see it's kind of got the form to where it bottoms out inside the valve there. So I think what we're gonna do too is probably clean up the end a little bit. All right, so right where that packing washer and packing nut goes, this is it's kind of got that waxy feel to it, and there's a little bit of corrosion here, and then we got that on the stems as well. You wouldn't think there'd be that much traffic at 7 o'clock in the morning. We tried to start this video super early, like 6:30, so that I didn't have to deal with traffic, and yet there's, I don't know, everybody's up early today, even me, I guess. So anyway, what I'm using here is just a soft wire wheel here on my cordless drill. I'm just gonna kind of clean that up. You want to be careful because this is brass. You don't want it undersized because then it'll leak as well. But I definitely want to get some of that built up corrosion and stuff off, just to clean everything up real nice. So we got just a little spot that's kind of undersized, and it's from some of that, I'm gonna assume it's calcium that kind of ate into that brass there and kind of reacted. Hopefully that doesn't cause an issue with some leaking. If it does, then I think you can get these stems as well, but hopefully that's not going to be the case. It shouldn't matter, hopefully. So the rest of this I'm not going to clean up because that just sits in water all the time anyway, so there's no reason to clean that up. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual sealing or anything like that. Like I said, the water turns off back here, so your faucet or spout end is out here, so you turn your handle, the water comes out, the water's within this tube, or the tube that's around here like that, and this stem is in the inside. And then when you go to turn your water off, this turns, and that rubber washer in here is what shuts the water off. So as this comes through, you got your house, which is up in here or actually no, it's out here somewhere, the wall. You should have insulation that insulates it so that this is well within the house so it can't freeze. So when you turn your faucet off out here, the water isn't being shut off way out here outside the house. It's actually being shut off way back in here, even though, you know, your stem, actually it's probably in here somewhere is where the stem pokes through the house. The rest of this is all within the basement there, insulated, and then the water gets turned off back in here. Alright, so like I said, everything looks like a mess, but I'm working on it. I got like a ton of projects here going I want to get done today. So if you forgot how everything came apart and you're not sure, if you look on the bag, it shows you the correct orientation of everything. So the first thing you're going to put on is that new washer. So this is the brass washer. We're going to put that on first. It just slides up to where it stops. This washer here, I don't think there is a correct way of putting it on. I think you can put this on either way. One side kind of is tapered and the other side is not. I'm putting it on like this so that the taper is on this side. So you want to make sure that slides on. And then the next part is going to be your number 3 packing nut. Actually, they have all the parts numbered here, so let's see if so this is a packing support washer. And then you have your, I don't know, oh, this is your EPDM packing. Install in any direction. It says right on the bag, so that's good. So you really can't goof that up. So that's the way I'm doing it. Your packing nut, which we want to get that to slide over here. Like I said, if you don't have this end cleaned up real well, this might not want to slide over so nice. You might kind of have to twist it on here just because you got a lot of corrosion on there. So that's what that should look like. And then the handle we can kind of just set on because we'll need that to screw that back into the fixture. On the opposite end, we got this little tiny conical shaped washer that goes on our stem side, and I believe this is your valve seat rubber. And the way you want to put that on is the flat side goes on first. So you're going to kind of push it on the side that has the cone shape. That's what's going inside your fixture, which is actually making your seal. Then you have a shorter brass washer or screw that's going to go in, and that's what holds that whole assembly in. And that doesn't have to be super tight just because it can't go anywhere. And getting that in there is somewhat of a trick. I don't think my magnetic screwdriver is going to stick to this brass screw. I could be wrong though. Maybe if I had a brass magnet. This was a trick last night too. I thought maybe if I just did it a couple times and dropped it, it eventually, odds are, one of those times it would fit in there. Maybe we can get it like this. Alright, so you might have to mess with that a little bit. I got it in there. What I did was I kept the stem up like this and put the screw on the end of the screwdriver and just kind of got it to fall into place there. Again, this doesn't have to be super tight. You want to deform that valve seat washer or whatever it's called just until it kind of makes contact and it feels tight. That seems good to me. And again, I'm no plumber, I'm not an expert, but that seems about the right thing to do. This is then the new screw for the handle that we don't have to really worry about right now because we got to get this into the actual faucet assembly part. So we're going to set that aside for now, and then I think the next thing we're going to do is turn the water back on and flush out that valve a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to go downstairs and turn the water on and flush out that valve, and then we'll install the new assembly here. Alright, so we're going to put the stem valve in here. So you might have to gently kind of turn it and wiggle it a little bit. So I just wanted to flush that out just in case there was something in there. It feels like it's pretty smooth. There's no jagged edges. I think I just got a mosquito up my nose. Man, they're just crazy back here. That and wasp. You know when you go to the store to buy a wasp spray and they're all out, chances are everybody's having the same issue. So just kind of slide that in. I'm assuming once we get to this packing nut, there'll be a little bit of resistance here. And then what you're going to do is thread it back in like we threaded it out. Oh, look at that. It's nice. So now our faucet should be in the off position. And then we kind of want to start this nice brass packing nut here. kind of turn that a little bit. Then you're going to take your wet adjustable here that you didn't move, and just kind of start cranking that down a little bit. Now, like I said, you don't want to go super tight because it's just got to not leak, and it'd be good to have some adjustment in there so later on if it does start to leak when the rubber dries out, you can crank that packing nut down a little bit. So we're going to start with that, and then what I'm going to do is turn the faucet in the on position. Oh, it feels different turning it on and off. We're going to turn it in the on position. I'm going to turn the water back on downstairs, and then I can turn this off, and once that puts pressure, we'll see if there's any leak coming out of the stem, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we get the water turned back on. It's running through the hose. I don't see any leaks, which is good. I wouldn't expect any leaks because really there's very minimal pressure right now on there. So I should mention we're on well water, so we have our own well, and the approximate pressure is like somewhere between, I want to say 55 and maybe 60 pounds, somewhere in there. So we're going to take this, turn this off. Maybe less than that, maybe it's between 50 and 55. So now we have that amount of pressure from our well on that back side, and we're going to see if we get any leaks here. Turn it back on again. Because what you're doing is when you turn that off, you're trapping that water in there. You should end up with some leaks. I don't see any leaks now either. So, and if you look at this, let me bring the camera a little bit closer here. If you look at that packing nut, oops, you'll see it's not threaded in all the way. I wouldn't crank it in any further than that. I would kind of leave it out just because that gives you some adjustment, and just kind of keep your eye on it if it starts leaking. That way you can just crank it down a little bit. Alright, so we got one last step here, is just to put this brass screw to hold the handle on. And this should go pretty easy. If the threads are really gunked up on the inside, you could use maybe some penetrating oil, or what you probably could do is soak the whole handle in like a vinegar or maybe a CLR overnight, and that should take care of all that calcium. At least calcium is our issue here. You could have an iron issue too if you have a well. And just like that, that should be your faucet repair. So like I said, this was a $15 repair to get it to stop leaking instead of buying a new faucet or replacing it or anything. This one has a nice the nice box around. I added that. Otherwise it just came out of the siding, that whoever put the siding on really didn't do that the right way. And this faucet really should be mounted. It just is being held with the way the pipes are put in down in the basement. Not sure why that was never done correctly. Maybe someday I'll look into fixing that. So the other thing to note too is with your faucet here, it feels different when you turn it, especially when you're closing it. I mean, you don't want to crank it down too hard, because the harder you crank this down, the more you're compressing that rubber washer that's inside there. So just to turns the water off, there's no reason to like He-Man the thing down. So we'll look at the one I did in the front as well. Alright, so this is the front faucet I did last night. Same type of thing. Like I said, this one was much more froze up. You can probably tell there's a lot of calcium buildup here, because this around this whole nut, it was just like spraying. So I wanted to take care of this one first, just because you don't want that going back into the house and creating a mess. And you can see this is how they did this one when they put the siding on. The way they didn't do this right. So obviously the siding was put on after the fact, and they should have probably put a box like I did in the back. So I'll have to do that with this one at some point, and then it should really be mounted with these screw holes here. I'm not sure why they didn't do it that way. And here they're the ones I have in the garage here. Well, this is one. See, this one's mounted much nicer like it's supposed to, and that's a stainless steel screw. These I put in myself. And this one is actually for, I believe, hot water, hot softened water. So I don't know, this handle to me doesn't feel like plastic. Maybe at some point they had a run where they used plastic handles, but you can tell the Model 17 has that siphon valve. And we get a little bit of corrosion going on there. But yeah, this one's been good so far. So, alright, that's gonna be it for now.